Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy. Star Wars is back after a year away. It's finally back, and we have the Book of Boba Fett. Obviously, talking about Episode 1 or Chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land. And already the comments have been flooding in. We will be getting to everyone's comments. There's a lot to talk about. But yeah, I guess there's a lot to unpack with it. But before we do so, over to George with the socials.
Absolutely, guys. This is the spoiler discussions. Apologies about my voice. I've not got COVID. I've just started losing my voice, and it's not because I've been doing Matt Berry impersonations all day. We'll get into that. But do comment your thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett. It says spoiler discussions. The comments are unfiltered. Put whatever you want to put in there about the show. Don't worry about predictions, anything. Chuck it all in. We'll go through them. We'll bring them up. We've already had, Chris said, a lot already to read about. So that's going to be quite fun. And if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be doing these every Wednesday at 10 p.m. A bit like The Mandalorian. If you're around back then, we'd go live on the release date. Disney's new release date's now stupidly Wednesdays instead of Fridays, which is really annoying. That being said, obviously, do hit that subscribe. As we said, do like it. It does help. We've got some guys we're going to look forward to. And if you want to find out when our videos are going up, because we're more than just a Star Wars channel, we do have a lovely Star Wars logo. I think we debuted earlier this year. If not, this is the first time we've done it. Maybe there'll be an intro soon. Who knows? But hit us up on social media, Twitter @cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. And we have a link to TeePublic in that description below. But as we said, we're here for the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 1. The main thing, Chris, we've got it confirmed that we get chapters.
Chapters. It makes more sense for this one, I think, with it being a book. But I guess it's just what we come to expect at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, and you don't want one of those weird. It'd be weird, is it, to have chapters for Mando and then episodes for this? And it was like a lovely confirmation. It goes to show how the marketing campaign's been, where sort of no one spoke about the show and no one really knows much about it heading into it. But I think we'll get to that. But before we do, we've spoken about terrible marketing. Let's get your initial thoughts. What was your hype heading into this show today?
There really wasn't any. It was I had to kind of remember that it was out and we had to watch it and we had to review it, in all honesty. So, the end of season 2 of Mando was great. That final scene. Then we got that end credit sting and it was like Book of Boba Fett coming next year. And they just like casually dropped it in at the end. And I think we've both said we're kind of in agreement on this, that Boba Fett isn't our most favorite character. Like, he's fine. I think a lot of people blow him way out of proportion as being, this awesome, unstoppable bounty hunter character. And yeah, he's fine. He's just a character to me, though. He's never been like top shelf character when it comes to Star Wars. So I was just like, yeah, fine. It's Disney wanting to crank out more TV shows. That's fine. I just wanted it to be good, essentially. Fill in the character a bit more, maybe make me come to like Boba Fett a little bit more. But I think they knew they were onto a good thing. Him returning in Mando Season 2, spoiler alert, seemed to, win over the fans a lot. They kind of showcased his powers a little bit more, I guess, and his capability. And I guess just seeing the actor back as well, Temeura Morrison coming back was kind of a big deal for prequel fans, especially. So you had the OG fans who maybe liked Boba Fett, grew up with him, the merchandise, and you had kind of our age group that really liked, probably more so, the character of Jango, and then kind of the crossover into Boba Fett. But yeah, there wasn't really much hype, in all honesty. It was kind of like, oh yeah, that needs to get watched and reviewed today. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm quite similar that I always prefer Django. I think I've had analogies before. I probably said to you and Tate, where it's been, Django's the face of every most Jedi's faces that died was Jango Fett's face, and Boba Fett, he had a pathetic death, and here we are, all those years later. People have their wishes. Comics did stuff, books did stuff, but legitimately in canon for the first time, we obviously had that last year of Mando, and I really enjoyed him in Mando. I like Temeura Morrison. I think I like Temeura Morrison more than like Boba Fett. That's a very weird compliment to make someone I've not seen many of his films. But it's one of those where I had no issue with the whole voice changes or that stuff. And when they announced the Book of Boba Fett, it was really random. I don't even remember the original Josh Trank Boba Fett film we were going to get all those years ago. Obviously, for those that want to research it, he got sacked for many, many reasons, mainly because of everything that he was doing on set on Fant Four Stick, wasn't it? Who was trashing his head, all that stuff, mega stories. But I think this is a character that was inevitable that they'd do at some point, and I think it's fair to say that with Mando being the hit it is, I think Disney have done the right thing in making the jump to TV now for a lot of these shows. Doesn't make it necessary viewing, but they're almost able to create this. I hate using this term, Star Wars television universe. Is there a better term we can come up with than that?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
This getting announced was weird, and I'm going to be blunt. I didn't mind this episode as an initial thought, but I'm kind of gutted we've gone a year without Mando. I understand why. Obviously, Pedro's finished filming the Last of Us, which is going to be even better than anything I can imagine, hopefully. But yeah, this was the series that just kind of happened, and there's been one trailer which came out like not even on that Disney Plus day. It was like 3 weeks before, which didn't make sense. And yeah, sorry, I'm a bit croaky. I'm not disappointed in the show. I've just got a really bad throat, but I got a little bit hyped yesterday. I saw a lot of people tweeting about it, and I thought, you know what? There's a new Star Wars thing to write. I've not watched a single Star Wars film this year. I've basically had a year off. I think I might have slipped in Rogue One once actually, but I've been away from it for a year. You know, we've done Bond, we've done Marvel, we've done lots of Marvel shows, new Marvel films, Matrix. There's all the stuff at the start of the year. Like this year, I've crossed off so many franchises, and I've not gone back to Star Wars, which is probably quite good for the blood. I've had a year off it, but here we are, 1 year later, ready for the next year, which is going to have Boba Fett, Mandalorian, Cassian, Kenobi, Bad Batch Season 2, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, not much hype today, but I quite enjoyed the episode. You know, I set mine up for 8 AM. I didn't need to be that up early. I'm on reduced hours till next week when we're back at work, and I thought I'll still go on at 8 AM because some prick somewhere is going to spoil it on Twitter. I'm going to wake up at 8:30 and I'm going to see spoiler ... Here it is, and I'm sick of that. So yeah, that was my really monotonal hype for this show. Which is, you know, again, as we've both said, we're not the Boba Fett fans. I think for some people, this might be like, we've got a couple of people in the comments. It's really struggling to keep up. Hassan, who's new to the channel today, we missed the hype back in 78 79. We weren't born in truth, but there was a lot of hype around him, and it fizzled badly when he had such little exposure. Yeah, he was in the holiday special, wasn't he? He had toys, the prototype versions, and then he was in Empire, and then he got his best moment in Return of the Jedi, as far as I'm concerned, when he was quickly dispatched. But yeah, how do we really approach this? Because this is a spoiler discussion.
I guess the structure was the first thing that kind of threw me. I thought, I guess we would have to fill in the 5-year gap between Return of the Jedi kind of catching us up to where we are now, because we didn't really get that in Mando, which I was kind of glad about, because you don't want to take the focus away from Mando and, you know, the other prominent characters in that. But, you know, we first show up, you know, Boba Fett's in a Bacta tank, which he goes back to quite a lot. Like, I want to know what that's all about. Has he got some kind of like terminal illness or something that he has to keep like replenish himself? It's almost like the sort of like Lazarus pit or something from Batman. He has to keep rejuvenating himself. I thought that was quite an interesting thing. And then we got the flashes back to nostalgia, and I love it. I love me some prequel stuff. So when it reminded me of that show they did, you know, the one that you got really hyped for. It was like the environments, wasn't it? It was like a nature documentary almost, and we got like these beautiful sort of like establishing shots of Camino again. And I was like, oh, we're back in Attack of the Clones. And I don't know if they got I think in the credits it said there was a double for young Boba Fett, but it looked like they took some like extended footage from Attack of the Clones from the Geonosis pit. And that shot of picking up Jango's helmet, that just kind of grounded us right back to where we are. And I think that's the kind of stuff that we want from Kenobi as well next year. We want some of those flashbacks. We want some of those, you know, introspective memories to stuff from, you know, days gone by kind of thing. So I thought that immediately struck me and got me on board. It had me in with the nostalgia for that, definitely. And I just thought it was an interesting framed narrative, how it would go back and forth. And hope, I'm guessing they're going to probably be continuing that as the episodes go on. You're going to have the stuff happening in the present as well as the stuff in the past. And I've got to assume that something from his past is going to come into the present as well, because it would feel weird if you've got two random stories that aren't connected in any way. You know, 5 years is a lot of time. You've got a lot of ground to fill. And I guess it's vaguely intriguing. I think they do kind of, there's a lot of him getting knocked out, getting dragged through the desert, getting tied up, breaking out, getting knocked out again, getting dragged through the desert. There was a lot of that going on. So I think it was quite stop and start in terms of the flow. But I like the concept of him having these visions and flashbacks to his, you know, to his childhood. And I don't know if we'll get any more specifically from that point, because I know that the Clone Wars filled in a lot of that, didn't it? There was a lot of story arcs with young Boba Fett. But yeah, I guess that's an intriguing part of the story. That's probably more intriguing to me than the stuff going on in the present. It's kind of like a Godfather, Game of Thrones type thing going on with Boba on the Iron Throne, which is fine. but I'm more interested in what happened in that 5-year gap, I guess.
I'm the carbon footage as well. I think, did we have a chat this week when we were chatting about the Bib Fortuna thing, and I was like, that's probably like, can't remember what the conversation was, but that's kind of me saying the Bib Fortuna stuff. I hope they would get to that in the show.
Yeah,
and I think we're going to get like a split narrative for the whole show. I think we're going to get current and it's like Dune, like Matrix, like all these things. Been having dreams again in his back to tank. Really quick comment I just want to bring up: Hassan, bird injuries he suffered look like they're on par of Anakin on Mustafar. Yeah, he was sticking some weird like stuff up his face. He looked like a crispy ET when he was like left on the desert, like the white dog shit one. I just couldn't get the image out of my head.
yeah,
he did. I tweeted it earlier, but Dave, he was basically digested, so some amount of damage. You got to imagine the inside not too good either.
What did you think of the Sarlacc, by the way? Because that was quite. I've always wanted to see what happened in the Sarlacc. I must admit, I was a little bit underwhelmed. I don't know what I was expecting, like this big, elaborate 10-minute elongated action sequence of him breaking out the Sarlacc, and it was kind of just punch through a membrane and you're out.
Set it on fire.
You know,
it reminded me of Aliens. Like we just didn't get the popping effect. Like
I wanted the stormtrooper to be alive in there. You know how they say like you're digested over 1,000 years, and there's bits like that in Alien where people are stuck up against the wall and they're still kind of alive and twitching. Like I wanted it to go that way, but yeah, people are mentioning about the stormtrooper in there, saying it was a little odd. Did you mean like just it looked like a puppet or something, like a mannequin?
No,
or something?
I think the fact a stormtrooper was there felt odd. I don't know if it's meant to be a time thing, like oh look, there were stormtroopers, but it would have been cooler if there was like a battle droid or if there was a clone or something.
Or
then you'd realize
that fell into it during the battle. What was it? What they're called? Natu, Klaatu, and Baratu, or whatever they're called. Like the guards on the sail.
Some of those guys, like proper dive in like head first. Like
the guy who Wilhelm screams in Return.
Yeah, he's loving it, but he's probably getting digested first. Like he's gone right to the bottom straight away.
Right. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I get the stormtrooper thing. I did think it was a bit odd, and then needing the breathing device from him too. I didn't really get that logic.
Which worked. Yeah, that was strange. I didn't.
Yeah, but I love the shot of him. Do you remember that awful fan film that was around for years? That Boba Fett crawling out. Come on, like it was a great scene. It was a great moment. If anyone's seen Parks and Rec, I think they even joked about it many years ago in that. But seeing the wreckage of the sail barge was cool. The Jawas coming in, which obviously you get your Mando storyline where we know it's going to I forgot his name, Cobb Vanth, Timothy Oliphant. Mm-hmm. I love seeing all these little pieces that we know about, and they're sticking authentic. Because it'd be weird if like he just got out, went out for a casual jog, you know, with his jetpack and all that kind of stuff. But they didn't. They stripped him down. They made him a Prisoners Tusken Raiders, which I didn't see coming. More prequel content. We got the dog. An animatronic dog at some moments, I'm convinced as well.
In the close-ups, it was. That was good. I like that.
But yeah, the flashback stuff, I just found it really fascinating. I think, let's stick with the flashbacks. Let's do all the flashback stuff, because it does end on the flashback too. We know we're going to get this, we've got 7 episodes. And I'm not saying every episode is going to be split 50-50 with current and past, but you can say so on logic. You're in theory going to get like an hour and a half screen time as a flashback in the present. And I think the flashbacks are what I'm really curious for, because we know he has become a crime lord. You don't just get that job and just like chill around like, I could just keep bumping off the next one. Like there's going to be some Godfather stuff, I hope, for the present thing, but I'm more intrigued to see his journey. How is he going to go from the Sand People to where he was in Mando in the desert? We know there's the Tusken Raider. He's got the Tusken staff thing. The guy was fighting him with. What do you call them? Some people Tusken Raiders. I know this is a conversation Star Wars fans like to have now. To me, they're Tusken Raiders.
It's just an interchangeable name, I suppose, isn't it? Just maybe Sand People's like a slang term for it. The proper name's Tusken Raider. But the women and the children too, and we see the children finally in this one, don't we? Which made me laugh. Think of those prequel things. We've got a comment from Dave here. It says he liked that the Tusken Raiders wore something different for a change to show a different clan. Yeah, it was like you got a sense of like a hierarchy, almost like one was like the chief, the king, like wearing the black robes and sort of like the shoulder plated armor and everything. So yeah, it was cool to see like a different faction of them. And I quite like that in Mando as well, how it was almost like a different tribe. Like they were a bit, we got more of their communication, a bit more of their culture in Mando season 1 and season 2. And we're seeing even like another clan of them now, which I thought was really cool. No subtitles again, though. You know, it's very much like that Mando. There was that episode of Mando, wasn't there, where so much of it was in Tusken Raider language. And I thought we could probably do, it was almost like Star Wars Holiday Special territory, a little bit like, okay, can we get some subtitles now so we actually know what's going on? But yeah.
It was cool to get them. I was a bit worried when I first saw them. I'm not going to lie. We had them a lot in Mando. Obviously, it's a lot of people harping on, we're going back to Tatooine, but this isn't the Star Wars fans for change. This is the casual non-Star Wars fans, and it's been really interesting for them talking about this show because they're like, why are we going back to Tatooine? I will give this its defense and Kenobi. These are the two shows that should be on Tatooine. I don't know if I should say that cautiously, given where Kenobi might be heading off. We don't know, but we know he might be heading off. I've got no issue with this being set on Tatooine, and even geography-wise, I got a very excited in a sad way that it's in Mos Espa. And when they said Mos Espa, I was like, hold on a minute. I was like, you're telling me that not the fact that Jabba's never been Mos Eisley, but they're actually referencing again the Phantom Menace, the prequel, and he did start the pod race. Yeah, perfect comment.
There, yeah.
Makes sense. He was always there. He's not going to want to travel far, is he? He's not going to want to go across half of not Coruscant, half of Tatooine to get to the next city. And it was really cool being back there because we got a new cantina, we got new places, but we're not trapped in that iconography of let's go to the landing platforms, let's go to the cantina. And you know how Mando did do that, which was the episode that was criticized most.
There were bits of that in this episode for me, and it was when they went to the cantina, and you've got what we assume is Max Rebo as well, the little blue elephant with the keyboard, who is another survivor from the sail barge. Apparently, we had Bib Fortuna who made it out. We've got Max Rebo who apparently made it out. Dengar. I don't know how Max Rebo got off there. That will probably never be explained. Although never say never, we might get a spin-off series with Max Rebo, but you enter a familiar setting of a different cantina, but it's kind of the same. You've got a bith in there, you know, the kind of playing a variation on that theme again. And that's the stuff where I kind of roll my eyes like, oh, okay. And even with Tatooine, I'm like, I'm so done with seeing Tatooine at the moment as like a Star Wars fan. But then I had to keep telling myself, well, it does make sense because it's Jabba's palace, and of course it's going to be set on Tatooine. So, you know, I need to accept that. But it is a lot of those moments where they do kind of force that iconography. It's like, yeah, we get it. The Cantina Band, it was in the original Star Wars film. And they do repeat a lot of bits like that. And I feel, especially at this stage now, you know, 2 seasons of Mandalorian, you can maybe get away with that in season 1 of Mando. You want to bring in that nostalgia, I guess. Season 2, where this is like our 3rd season now, you don't need to keep doing stuff like that. You know, I like when they show me something new in some way. So I didn't really need another cantina with that song playing as well. You know what I mean? But
it was more a casino type thing, not to do a whole Last Jedi thing. But
oh God, hope not.
There was a droid playing the drums. We had. It looked like I've not been to Star Wars Land. I think Kyle in the comments has. I think the droid that was at a table dealing out chips was the droid from Star Wars Land that does something. I don't know, but I think they were tying in a lot of things there. But no, I get the Tatooine discussion because that is a big thing, and I think this being Mos Espa, I know it's really minor because 90% of people don't care or don't know what the difference is between the two of them. But when we know Kenobi's going to be set there, do you remember how we sort of criticized season 1 of Mando when they did the whole shot by shot, and then season 2 was like, okay, we went there, we dipped in, we went somewhere new there, and obviously Kenobi's going to have to be there, and I don't mind if Kenobi, but I'd struggle if Boba Fett went there. And then Kenobi went there, and then Mando's already been there. That city's popping up in far too many places. I really want to quickly bring a comment by Sam. The intertwining original and prequel elements helps connect present Boba to the events of both trilogies, which is fantastic. Absolutely. I did think for a moment, I'm not going to drop a Spider-Man spoiler, but there are scenes in Spider-Man when iconic characters drop iconic lines from many years before. And watching Boba Fett today, I was like, oh yeah, remember in Mandalorian when he said, you know, I'm just a simple man making my way, and then he switched it to
Galaxy, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, we didn't get things like that, which I don't mind because it worked so well in Mandalorian Season 2. But there were a lot of references to both trilogies. And I think where we are now with Star Wars as a fan-based entity, I think compared to when Lucasfilm bought it in 2012, that happened now almost 10 years ago, the prequel stuff is far more accepted now. And I think that's a good thing. they're able to do those references, and they're able, we're getting a bloody Obi-Wan Kenobi show in May. Well, hopefully in May. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't release on May the 4th. But no, let's actually talk Boba Fett. That says it all, doesn't it? We're really, really diving off.
I do like this. No. Do you want to really quickly? Dave says, poor Max Reba had to start a new band, lost all the other bandmates when the sail barge went down. Yeah.
He might have nipped out for a
There's got to be some information that's filled in between those two events. Like,
get like a robot chicken sketch. There'll be like a robot chicken sketch where it can explain it for us. But no, with this as well, the Tusken Raids of the kid thing was weird. I did think for a moment we were going to Aunt Barun and Clones when they went to that random house, getting...
It's like a gang with like graffiti on the wall or something, wasn't it? Rival gang.
Yeah, and then they just disappeared. And I was like, okay, they'll probably pop up in an.
Were they wearing leather jackets? They looked like a kind of greaser biker
like Mad
or
Max.
Something. Yeah,
like something like Mad Max, and they were like spray painting the wall and running off. It was a bit of a weird one, but I've seen a lot of people complaining online that we got 5 minutes of Boba Fett digging for water. I know we're sort of rushing through it and we're going through it, and I said that we're finding our feet as well as this show. I didn't mind it. It was very weird when they're like, you're just going to dig at this precise spot for water. I didn't really... Well, I didn't get it. It felt a bit odd. Not that I don't want to see Boba Fett digging for water, but I liked the reveal that was cool, but it just felt a bit exaggerated, the whole trundling across the desert, all that kind of stuff. But I fucking love the monster they gave us. I'm guessing I have a name at some point, but I saw this forearms come out and I thought straight Mortal Kombat. It's Goro from Mortal Kombat, and I'm convinced. I know you've got a theory on the face. To me, it looks
you had the body down. What did you think the head looked like?
I think it looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon, the old like 1930s like horror films. But yeah, what was yours for people that might know as well?
So you got the body down, absolutely. I knew it in my head, but you absolutely got it. The guy from Mortal Kombat. I thought it looked like the Gorn from Star Trek. That awful like practical effect guy in a suit that Captain Kirk fights. I think it's because it's in a desert as well where he fights it, maybe. But I swear to God, Google image the Gorn. It's exactly the same head when he's passing it around and like showing everyone at the camp at the end. I like the creature design. I think it's creative. I don't know what place a creature has on Tatooine looking like that. It felt weird. Like, I know there's lots of weird creatures, but that was like Dark Souls boss just like randomly shows up. Why is it under the sand? Why does it look like that? It's this massive thing. Like, that's fine in Star Wars, but it just felt weird being randomly under the desert. Is it just a one-off thing? Is it a species?
Was it wasn't really water balls? That's what I kept thinking.
Like if they'd set it up, maybe, you know how the crate dragon was, how it's like this myth, this legend, the Sand People are terrified of it, and they take Mando there because they want him to get rid of it as kind of like a, you do this for us and we'll help you out kind of thing. But there wasn't any of that setup. It was just, you're digging for water. Now, was it that the Sand People were looking to harvest some water and they sent them out to do their dirty work for them? Was it just a way to kind of break Boba Fett and this Greedo character down emotionally? We never really get a reason for why they take them there to do what they're doing. And then all of a sudden this random thing shows up that's kind of like a centaur as well, how it's walking on all fours of the human body. So I think maybe if it was set up a little bit more like to prove your worth, it's like the Joker. We're going to have tryouts. One of you
can egg with the Jawas.
It's going to be Greedo or it's going to be this guy. And if you can beat this thing in single combat, we'll let you live kind of thing. Maybe something like that, a bit more of a setup. It felt quite random. I thought it just showing up out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was very random. I think even the design of it, as you said, looked very like sea monstery as well. Like not something it's like under the sand on Tatooine.
Yeah.
It got a lot of comments. Sam, I almost thought it was a crate dragon before it emerged. I did think that when it first discovers like the scales and stuff. Trevor, I thought it reminded Jason the Argonauts.
Yeah, I can see
Dave,
that.
similar, move like a Harryhausen model. I can see that being very intentional. Was nice to get something not similar. I fully agree with that. I'm glad it's not a monster we've already had. Hassan, Greek mythology, look about it. It was a very interesting concept. And again, it is nice to get new things. And they can do that now that, we know that with the stagecraft technology that they make these shows on, they've almost got unlimited potential for anything they go to. It's about building those worlds. And I think it was Star Wars Visions, the drone things. But I wonder if that's the world they're building in this tech. And that was just almost like a demo. The same way you got that like Matrix demo on PS5 recently.
I think
This tech,
because they blend it with practical as well. Going back
yeah,
to the dog, I can never remember what they're called. The dogs that like domesticated dogs that the Sand people have. The CGI looks great. Obviously, it's a lot better than it was back in the early 2000s when they made Attack of the Clones. But they will make a puppet version of it in close up, so I think that helps the immersion. And the tech looks fantastic as well. Like you would have assumed that they filmed all of this on location. Like there's not a single thing out of place in it. It looks brilliant.
yeah, and I think that's what I've enjoyed, that Mando, it hasn't just I've kind of not overstated, but obviously, I think if anyone saw the Mando behind the scenes stuff, Captain Kenny said that Lucas tried to make this Mando set like 15 years ago, but the technology wasn't there for it to be made in real life, and it was ILM Mando that has pushed this, and that the new Batman film's going to be using it. I think they've spoke about to blend all these. I think loads of Liverpool, Glasgow, all these buildings are going to merge into one. What's it called? Like a skyline or something. When it's all these buildings together, they're all developing their own tech with this, and Disney sat here on the Empire with it, creating it, sending it off to America, sending it off to London to shoot the films there, sending it off to Australia to shoot films there. This tech is here to stay, and it is going to be interesting to see it being used in other capacities, because when it is a sand desert, I think me and you are both in agreement the best singular episode of Mando is probably Chapter 9, the whole Crate Dragon, which felt like a film.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting to the point now where they're going to be making films on that budget. A lot of Shang-Chi was shot like that, and obviously you could see the difference still with the film budget, that it didn't quite look right in the final third, but just seeing them in this, and it makes it easier to churn out. This was filming last December. Obviously, we're still in COVID. Mando's filming on it as well. Kenobi's filmed there straight away. There's loads of these little things they can do, but you're right, they're not dropping their practical effects. And I know obviously everyone's got different opinions on the sequel trilogy, but the one thing they nailed was that we're going to get the blend of CGI and live action perfectly. We're going to use models for some of the ships, and we'll use CGI when we have to. And I'm glad the shows are heading in that direction, because some shows could look awful if they're done wrong, because you get like a TV budget, and some films look like TV budget all the way around. And I think Mando's right up here. Elizabeth, massive are the Tuscan dogs. I don't toy with them when I was younger. I know the Attack of the Clones ones. That's why I've always liked them.
I might have done. I distinctly remember having one. I think I knew I had the female Tuscan Raider with like child in like a box. It was those Attack of the Clones blue box toys. If you know, you know. They cranked them all out though, didn't they? Every single thing you can think of. Really nerdy tangent as well. And I don't know if this was in Attack of the Clones, but I swear there were some moments where the Tuscan Raider dogs made a sound of the
They
Nexu.
did. They growl.
No, like like the tiger
the
thing in the pit. I don't know if they shared the same sound bite, but I was like, oh, that's strange. Speaking of a sound bite, did you pick up on the Cinema Sins clang at the beginning when it cut to black?
No.
You know how it's like Cinema Sins, like Cinema Sins reviews this, and it does that like kind of clang sound effect. I swear to God, when it does like the initial cut to black at the beginning, it was that exact sound effect. It was like they went into like a sound library on an editing suite and just pulled the same one.
I missed that. I did keep thinking of the Ludwig Göransson themes, not to jump ahead too far, but I didn't clock sound effects. But there wasn't anything particularly, I don't say Star Wars-y. I think it was Star Wars. There wasn't anything new. I mean, there was new creatures, but sound-wise, I didn't think it was early days of all that kind of stuff. Like, there wasn't anything in particular that, we're going to get a seismic charge at some point. But I'm glad that this episode wasn't just them littering seismic charges every minute, because you would ruin how great a thing they are. That's something that Favreau nailed with Mando. And I guess we haven't really spoken much about direction, but obviously Favreau was writing this with Robert Rodriguez directing it. I don't mind that. I'm going to go on the boring tangent and say that I'd much rather Jon Favreau directed whatever he wanted to direct on season 3 of Mandalorian. Let him do whatever he wants. Of course, he was also in Spider-Man, so he's he created the MCU. He's created the Mandalorian. Let Jon Favreau do whatever he wants, because he's a fucking legend. And Robert Rodriguez directing this. I don't know if he's doing the whole series, but I've never been a massive Rodriguez fan. I loved his episode of The Mandalorian, but I know that he has a lot of fans. The whole Western vibe is very much up his alley. But I just think in this episode, I know we've not got to the present day stuff yet, but some of the action felt very like early 2000s.
Yeah, it was quite weird. I know it's a TV show, but so me saying that the action felt very TV show-esque, because I fundamentally know that's what it is, but you look at some of the stuff in Mando and it does kind of straddle the line between a fully fledged film, doesn't it? We mentioned that Crate Dragon episode and a bunch of other bits as well. So honestly, if it hadn't come up in the credits, I wouldn't have known that there wasn't really any kind of directorial style that I noticed to it that I would like pin to a Rodriguez. Sometimes when they've had these guest directors on, you can see elements of their style within it, not all the time, but sometimes you can see their input into the episode. And I never really had that with this one. Now, I don't know if he's directing every episode. I don't know if he's going to sort of cherry pick which ones he did. And I guess for an episode 1, it makes sense to bring him on because he did the Boba Fett episode in Mando 2, which was like the big action heavy one where we saw Boba Fett in action. But yeah, it was just kind of like a standard episode, standard like Star Wars episode, if you know what I mean. There wasn't really anything visually that made it stand out to me.
Yeah, I'm just we've got a comment from Elizabeth asking, are there other directors? I actually want to make this.
Let's check and see if there is.
I've not seen anything confirmed, but actually what I want to bring up is something, not to compare it to Kenobi again, but when they announced Kenobi, I don't know if you remember, they announced an entire cast with it. Like the whole, here's 12 photos of everybody involved. Here's all of these actors we've cast. And obviously Deborah Chow was directing the whole show. With Book of Boba Fett, they've been very, very quiet about the show within itself. There's been rumors there could be cameos here or there by people from The Mandalorian, which is fairly obvious given it's set at the same time as Mandalorian. But I feel that going back to the marketing really quickly before we get to the modern day stuff, it's almost like they know that Kenobi's going to be big. The fact we don't have a formal cast announcement, I think, is very odd for a 7-episode show. I know that obviously we know we were getting Ming and Temeura Morrison, but it feels weird to approach this not knowing anyone else bar those. So even for Mandalorian, we at least knew names of people that were going to be in it. Sam's Filoni's reports direct 1 episode, as well as Bryce Dallas Howard. I could see either of them.
There's a list on Wiki here, so take it for what it is, but it says Rodriguez directed 2 additional episodes of the series, obviously this being one of them, with Jon Favreau, Bryce Dallas Howard, Dave Filoni, Steph Green, and, oh my god, Kevin, the director of the new Mortal Kombat film. Another Mortal Kombat link, there you go. Were also reported to have directed episodes, so I don't think there's anything legitimately confirmed yet, but it's just kind of the rumor mill at the moment, I think.
It's curious. I'm curious. I mean, the Mortal Kombat guy would... The action wasn't that bad in that one, in a couple of the fights in that film. Yeah, should we talk the current day Boba Fett stuff? Yeah. As I said, this is episode 1, so there's lots taken, and there's a lot of comments coming through, which I didn't actually expect for this show tonight. I'm not going to lie. I just didn't think anyone was really watching this. Not us, Boba Fett. Obviously, inadvertently one effective there. No, the current day stuff, we didn't see enough of it for me to be invested in, if I'm going to be blunt. The fact that when we go to the second flashback, that ends the show. That, the current day timeline is they've had their meetings, they've gone out to the casino, they've been attacked. We've not seen anything else. It's really hard to be invested in this portion of it. What I can say is that Matt Berry being in a Star Wars show is one of the greatest things that's ever happened. I did tweet saying I'd much rather that he was the voice of Grogu. That would just be phenomenal. Imagine if you had Baby Yoda, but it was just solely the Matt Berry voice, talking like Matt Berry, not Yoda dialect. Wouldn't you rather see that? And that'd be like the greatest thing you could ever see. Like when he's saying goodbye to not to Luke, to Mando in chapter 16, and you just hear the father as the door shut, or just
like, I am here, father.
Yeah, it'd be incredible. And he's playing the robot that we think is the one from Jabba's palace in episode 6, which me and used to wake up before we went live, because that's the robot. And then I heard his voice, says that sounds a bit like Matt Berry, and I was so broken to the thought that, have they recast a voice on this robot I know that was like a sarcastic evil droid, or have I just been watching too many Matt Berry things recently? And I do recommend what we do in the show is IT Crowd, all of it. But when I watched it again, because I watched it with my dad this evening, you can hear his voice so distinctly, but it's so random that Matt Berry is in Star Wars voicing a robot. I mean, we'd both love to see him in it physically, but I think at the same time, if he popped up in Star Wars, I don't think there would be like a suspension of disbelief that's just gone out the window.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, He's
Well,
a
it's like what I had
phenomenal.
with Aid Edmondson in Last Jedi.
Yes,
When Aid
yes,
Edmondson
yeah.
kickstart, I was like, the young ones, Bottom, like all those
He's a bit
comedy
old
shows, and
now,
I
though,
still
isn't it?
can't take it seriously with him there.
But with him, I think because he's aged a bit, it's not as bad. But I think when you've got someone that looks the same, and because he has for 15 years, they don't ever change. Even his voice in this show is like, let's get the Matt Berry voice and like synthesize it ever so slightly.
Mm-hmm.
It's great, and I want more. But I don't watch
Maybe we'll
Toast of
get more.
London.
Like he's in Jabba's palace. You know, he's kind of the
He's,
envoy that communicates.
I
See,
just can't
Hassan's
go
got the
over
right
it.
idea here. That you're a feisty one. I'll find use for you on the Master's sail barge.
Like,
I
imagine Matt
guess it
Berry
has to
saying
be
it
the
now.
same character, though. It has
I
to
think
be.
it
Like,
is.
surely they wouldn't have two of the same droid. And if the other one went defect, would they just get another one of the same?
But
Like,
can
I
you
don't know.
imagine Matt Berry saying that line though?
Yes,
Like
I
it would
can.
be,
Then I'd be fine with
and
that.
that's what makes it great. Like
Maybe they
Matt
can
Berry
special
saying,
edition Return of the Jedi. In the next release, they'll get Matt Berry to go back to
but
Return of the Jedi and voice that
like
droid.
the problem is the way Matt Berry would make it would sound like, well, we know Jabba was a dodgy bloke, but it would fit in with everything the Matt Berry characters tend to do.
Oh yeah,
Because he'd love to see Laszlo make a cameo. I mean, just put What We Do in Shadows and everything, but yeah, it's took me out of it so much that Matt Berry's in it. It's probably the highlight of the current day stuff because I didn't care about the casino. I'm going to say I didn't like the parkour chase. I think me and you laughed about this.
It was Assassin's Creed, wasn't it? It was like, as I was saying before we went live, I was almost like picking up my PlayStation controller and sort of navigating. No, oh yeah, you got to run over those chimney tops right there to get to the building. Then you got to swing on that thing to get to the other building. Yeah, it was. I guess it was a better Assassin's Creed scene than the actual Assassin's Creed film that came out. It had more parkour in this one episode than it probably did in that film, but. Yeah, there was nothing about sort of like the present day action situations that really held my attention. I haven't quite I did like the bit with the Gamorreans, I will say that, how it's like these two have been devoted to Jabba and then Bib Fortuna afterwards. It was almost like the Kingsguard in Game of Thrones, you know, like Barristan, like he's always loyal to whoever's the monarch. So I like those two characters. I hope they continue in it. It's almost like Pinky and Perky, isn't it? I don't think, do they have names yet? They probably do. But yeah, there was no kind of like action. Even like the fight scenes, you have these ninjas like that come down with like these shields and sort of electronic spear kind of things. I just didn't care. And it kind of felt like it was filmed a little bit flat as well. And I will say, like, Temeura Morrison's great. Like, I love seeing him back, but he's noticeably old. He's kind of like, if he looks a little bit pudgy in the armor, which he did in Mando Season 2. I'm not hating, I'm just stating it. So it doesn't feel like, I think age-wise, it should still be a Boba Fett in his prime. I know he's got some kind of like illness. Obviously, he keeps going to the Bacta tank to sort of like recharge up, but he looked a bit awkward in the outfit and the fight sequences. That's just me. I didn't.
I think he looked better than Mando. I think he looked
maybe
fitter than he did in Mando Season 2. Yeah, I mean, I think with him, the really great thing in Mando Season 2 was that they made the point that he had the. Someone's going to tell me what the weapon is, but the Tusken Raider weapon that we know he'll get at some point in this episode, in this series. Sorry, it was the whole like, because in real life he's obviously like a Maori descendant and trained and fighting that way. I think we were going to get this more physical Boba, and then like, going back to the gadgets in this one, I was kind of there. Like, I'd like to get a bit more fighting, but also, you know, just having a bunch of sort of ninjas spinning around with Gungan shields, and I was just
so that's it.
So
yeah,
I think with this we just didn't get enough time with the current day stuff. I don't think I'm invested in that part. As I said, the Tusken Raider stuff was great, getting all the flashback things, but I really struggled with that. I'm just gonna.
We've had some great comments come in.
Yeah, a lot of them are talking about Ming Na Wen. She's 58. I want to know what a secret
that
is.
blows
You would
my
never
mind.
think that. It's like Harry and Michelle Yeoh don't age at all. Sam, I like the interaction between Boba and Garza. I just wish it'd gone a bit longer, notwithstanding in the middle of the room. And yeah, and of the very limited marketing campaign we've had, Garza's the one that's been in like all the shots. So I don't know if she's going to be coming back. I don't know if it was them just marketing episode 1. But yeah, sorry, I'm reading the comments. I don't know. I'm torn because I liked half of the episode and I didn't particularly care for the other half, which sort of I don't know if we're sort of nearing the tailgate of it, but before we get to music, I don't know if I'm in on that's just splitting opinion on the episode that I liked one half of the story, not the other. But I'm not disjointed from it that I still want to give it more time because we're getting 7 episodes, and by the end of episode 7, there could be this flawless 2-arc structure that met in the middle or at the latter end. I don't know if that's me being a bit overboard with it.
No, I think for me, just touching really, really quickly on Ming-Na Wen's character, I've never really liked her character. I love Ming-Na Wen. She's always going to be the voice of Mulan to me from the original animated film, but Boba, it doesn't feel like he's in his prime, feels a little bit awkward. And then Ming-Na Wen is just kind of there. Like, I honestly couldn't tell you anything about her character. Like, she's an assassin. She's capable in a fight. That's basically it. So I don't know. I thought this was just kind of average for me for like an opener. It didn't kind of win me back. Like, oh yeah, Star Wars is back after long last. We're getting this TV show again, and I don't know how much of that is down to me. Just as I mentioned at the beginning, just Boba Fett as a character doesn't really interest me. He's out of all the characters that you could do a show about in Star Wars, and for me to understand more and get to know more about their story, Boba Fett's not one that would be near the top of my list. But I know he's a fan favorite. I definitely like the flashback stuff more than the present day stuff. I'm in agreement there. But that being said, I do think that a lot of the flashback stuff in this episode did feel quite meandering and didn't feel like it had much direction or flow to it. Love the Camino stuff, the quick glimpses there and the sort of like those childhood memories, but I'm sure that is literally just nostalgia kicking in with that stuff. Yeah, as I mentioned, it was just like a lot of getting knocked out, walking through the desert, knocked out, walking through the desert, and there wasn't really much clarity as to what's going on. Maybe we will get that clarity as we go, more episodes in, and we know who that gang is, what that graffiti leads to. Is that like, a rival tribe or anything? I'm sure we'll find out. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be watching every episode of this. Of course we are. And, by the end of it, maybe we'll go back and say everything makes sense. But for a season opener, it didn't really do anything for me. It was okay. It was just fine. It felt like a lot of samey stuff that I'd kind of seen before. Didn't present me with much new stuff really in the grand scheme of things, but it does feel very at home in sort of this Mandalorian TV show world that they created. It doesn't feel completely disjointed from those shows that we've seen before. It does feel very much in the same realm and the same visual feel to it for sure.
And this is where I'm sort of approaching it. That it is, at the end of the day, it's a spin-off of a spin-off. In the same way that Cassian's going to be a spin-off of a spin-off. I think it makes it harder on the spot to get the, not authenticity, but it's kind of like, what's this telling us in the broader picture of things? And maybe that's a question for Disney Plus this year, because obviously we've had all their Marvel shows that have been in, and Hawkeye was great. Some have set things up, some are setting things up, whereas Boba Fett feels like here's a legitimate term for spin-off where Boba Fett will be its own thing and you'll be able to watch it on Disney Plus. And I think the lack of a marketing campaign has not helped it. It's great when you use your episode 1 to market a production, fine. But now no one knows what's. I think, did Mando have the same thing? Was it like 3 episodes and then we didn't see anything until like the last 1 or 2 episodes where
I think so.
The marketing campaign dropped off, and I think it could benefit. There might be stuff we're going to sit here and be like, "Whoa, what happened? How was this not happening?" And at the same time, and I'll be saying, "Why didn't they market this for other people to see?" So it's a crucial. I think I enjoyed the episode, but I certainly see why a lot of people have been underwhelmed by it. And what I'm curious for is the diehard Boba Fett fans. Is this, I don't want to say is this what they want to see, because I don't really care about their opinions, but are the diehard Boba Fett fans, like, normally they'll like inject anything Boba Fett related. You know how they are, and they're very tribal set of fans. I wonder if this is what they're hoping for. Great, they've had that appeasement to some degree, but I think the real meat of it's going to be this build-up story to how he got to Bib Fortuna, and also if the ending of this prequel kind of narrative arc is him killing Bib Fortuna, why was that the credit scene in Mando Season 2? That's one question I have that I showed it with my dad tonight, and I said, it's only one person, but if they don't remember a credit scene from over a year ago, seeing this old dude battered in the desert looking like, E.T., then suddenly being the crime lord, like, yeah, there's flashbacks, but how do you know? You want to know how he's at least got to that first spot. And I think the show should have started also with that credit scene again, because
I'm in agreement there. I think it would have helped, refresh your memory, and I do think it's an integral scene, really, isn't it? Like, to get him to that point. I agree with that. I guess we can talk about music as well. I talked about sort of like a familiar feel there. So Ludwig Göransson didn't do the score, but he does do the main theme. I mean, I was kind of the same when we reviewed season 1 of Mando. I remember I was like, "Oh, I don't really like."
It sounds like Creed 2.
Yeah,
This
and
one
then
felt
like
sounded more like Creed.
I don't know.
In
There's
the
like this weird kind of male singing going on, and they didn't sound like they were in tune. Like the end credits version, if that is the main theme, it was kind of a bit abrasive to listen to, and it sounded a little bit off key
that's
and
the
out of
official
tune.
theme.
So maybe as the episodes go on, if we do get a season 2, season 3, they're going to crank out that Boba Fett content. It might grow on me more. It does sound like Mandalorian. I will say that it's similar vein to it, but I'm not really digging the main theme. And I will say, before watching this episode, I was just kind of pottering around the house. And I was going like dun, 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 dun. And I had to keep reminding myself, no, I'm not watching Mandalorian season 3, Chris. I'm watching Book of
Yeah,
Boba Fett. But I did kind of miss it. I was watching this with my mom, and she was saying like, this season needs a baby Yoda. That's what it needs. I was like, I know we've come, we've got attached to those characters now. We've come accustomed to those characters now. We've got to wait an extra year for those characters. So I hope the wait's worth it for Mando season 3. So I do think inherently there was that hype for what we already know, and it's like, oh, that this isn't that. It's a separate thing. Feels very similar, but it's
yeah.
not the characters that we've really come to love from Mando, I think.
And I think as well with Mando, you go back to chapter 1. No one knew Baby Yoda's going to be in it, but that was the hook. He was sent on a mission. It worked great as a pilot, but then you had the enigma of why the hell are they after a Baby Yoda?
Mm-hmm.
And whereas I feel the hook for this, there hasn't been a hook. There's not been a come back next week. Jax, do you think Sanctuary is one of those Twi'lek healing spells Carl Weathers talked about? Could be. I mean, if Carl Weathers just like pops up in a hot tub at some point in the series, then I would be all down for some mental cameos like that.
I mean, the Temeura Morrison memes are going to be great, with that spa advert.
Yes, the Polynesian spa.
That's it.
If anyone's not seen them, go on YouTube to search like Polynesian spa memes. It's all just Temeura Morrison. That's probably the best bit of marketing this show's had. Was him finishing filming, doing an advert in a hot tub.
It's been more memorable than the trailers for this thing, I will say that. We just got a comment here from Elizabeth, and I do agree with this as well. Referring to the Sarlacc pit, he got out there too easy. I wanted more of a struggle. I think for something that has been like a fan theory, it's been like in EU books and everything, and like extended canon and whatnot. Fan films have been made of him breaking out the Sarlacc. I do think it was very anticlimactic. I would have liked more of a action set piece in there. I don't really know how you would have filmed it, because it would have been a lot of stomach tissue, I guess, and goop and whatnot. But yeah, he just kind of punches through a bit of skin, does his flamethrower, then it cuts, and he's climbing out, and he's already out of there. So I would have liked a bit more of like a visual action beat, I guess, to sort of get into it. I did think it was a little bit easy after all these years, getting that answer.
And quickly by Carl, as a Boba fan, it's nice seeing him walking around without his helmet on and walking away from being a bounty hunter. I'm very intrigued by that comment, just because I loved it when he had the helmet on the chair, right? And I thought, okay, we're going to get him being a crime lord. But then, like, when he was around Tatooine, he's like, yeah, my helmet's off. So why did you have your helmet on then when you're in Jabba's palace for?
Yeah.
What was the... So I get
Wasn't
that exactly
Ming
as well.
Na Wen's character the same? Like, doesn't she walk around without a helmet on? Then when she's in an action scene, she puts it on. And I'm like, is it to conceal your identity? Because I can't imagine wearing a helmet like that would help you out in a fight. If anything, it would be a hindrance, because it's blocking your peripheral vision, right? But yeah, I don't know if it's like that he needs more face time. It goes back to that argument with Pedro Pascal, doesn't it? Everyone's saying like, oh, it comes season 2, he didn't want to wear the helmet anymore. He wanted to get more face time. I don't know if I agree with that.
No, that was a Grace Randolph exclusive, which means that it never ever was true.
But I think with Boba, like the original 2 films, the mystique was that you never saw his face. He was this guy behind the helmet, and you get that with Mando. I know we've seen Mando's face now a bunch of times, but it felt like they bought that Boba Fett
story.
Yeah, it felt like with Mando they bought that Boba Fett quality of sort of like the man behind the mask kind of thing into his character more, and I think you'd be repeating that. And we know that he's not necessarily Mandalorian. I think even Boba said that himself. That's why he takes the mask off. But I do think it diminishes the mystique of the character a little bit. But maybe that's already been done, with the prequels, seeing him as a kid, seeing him out of the suit and everything. Maybe that was already done many, many years ago. I'm not sure.
No, it's a good question, and I do think the show might go into that, because we've only got these little things like, oh, I used to work for him, and now he's like working under me. I'm intrigued to see what they want to do with it, because going from being the bounty hunter to the crime lord, you'd assume there's some story elements in there as what they can do with him to people know what he looks like. And yeah, he's very much going for this vibe of, the sort of the noble crime lord where, I want everyone to see who I am. I will walk on my own 2 feet. It's the kind of, not walk of shame, but it's that sort of like innocent character that would get butchered in Game of Thrones for trying to be the noble one in a place where there's no nobility or something like that. So I'm intrigued, and I'm very curious to see what these Boba Fett fans think, because let's be honest, without those Boba Fett fans, we wouldn't be getting this show. He wouldn't have been in the I think even Favreau said that the Mandalorian is what he thought of Boba Fett as a child, didn't he? But I think when the showrunner says that, it to me makes Boba Fett as a character redundant. That's not to criticize Boba Fett, but the Mandalorian was always advertised as what they want Boba Fett to be, and now we're getting a Boba Fett show about him and his old estate. So again, if they can get a bit more story going with the modern day stuff, then I'm all game for it. But they really need to amp that up next episode, and we should have a lot more, because the balance wasn't right of how much flashbacks we got. Really quick comment, Hassan. I want to see the likes of Bosk and Cad Bane show up. Listen, if Cad Bane's ever going to pop up in live action, I'm here for it.
Yeah,
obviously there were Clone Wars. He popped up in Bad Batch.
They never did finish that story arc, did they? Wasn't there going to be a fight between him and Boba? Maybe that could be part of the flashback.
He gave him the dent. That was one of the famous Clone Wars reels they showed one day. So, there's room, and with this Mandalorian technology, it's a lot easier to keep spoilers from leaking about anything. So maybe people will pop up. We have no idea. Hey, maybe even Harrison Ford will pop up and they'll de-age him. Probably more chance of winning the lottery. But
I don't see that happening. I see many things happening. I don't see that happening. The graffiti on the side of the wall. Oh, maybe. Yeah. The graffiti on the side of the wall on that thing, that symbol doesn't link to anything, does it? I was wondering if that was already a thing established, maybe, or
I thought that it looked...
Mephisto, maybe. Is it Mephisto reference?
There have been a lot of Mephisto memes. I think that's epitomized. There were Mephisto Boba Fett memes happening on Twitter yesterday, and a couple of other things. So, yeah, I don't know if I've got anything else I can say on this episode. In truth, I feel like I've talked more than I could.
I guess there's stuff to be said. We've almost talked an hour for it, but I mean, it's great that we've had such a turnout. People showing up for it, talking about it. The Star Wars fans are all here, so and
really come back next week.
Yeah, I was going to say we're kind of giving
in a weird, not in a we're ending the stream, but we're going to have these chats weekly, and if we get your comments, then it just gives us more things to talk about and bring in new scenarios, because it's a bit like WandaVision. WandaVision was all about the theories and people getting involved, and it makes these discussions a lot funner to do. It picks up on things we might have missed or you might have missed, and it's a fun way to do. So do keep commenting, guys. As I said, it has helped. And again, for a show like this, which I do think is very risky, I'm being absolutely blunt, to do a Boba Fett show, I'm curious, as Carl, but he's a Boba Fett fan. I want to get that opinion coming into it so we can see what different people think. So, yeah. Anything else? We've got a lot of things to push, but I think that's the polite way of doing the comment part. I've probably never done it that eloquent before, if I'm being honest. But as always, social media is the best place to find us. Twitter @cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy, TeePublic, link in that description below. It's where we announce our videos. We're approaching the end of 2021. There's going to be stuff planned. There might be stuff planned. We've got reviews coming out. We did the season 4 Cobra Kai spoiler-free yesterday. If you're a Cobra Kai fan, do view that. We made sure we spoiled nothing for anybody. Even in those comment sections, people are asking, we weren't spoiling. So if you want to get some spoiler-free thoughts, then obviously do check that out. We will have a spoiler review out this Friday, the 31st of December. Times TBC. As I said, hit us up on social media if you want to find out the times when we know them ourselves, because there's a lot to talk about with that show. And as we said, Boba Fett is going to be every Wednesday at 10 p.m. GMT. But Chris, handing over to you now, what do we have coming up?
Well, I'm just doing the thing to scroll across the bottom. There we go. So coming tomorrow, we're going to have Return of the King review. I got done pre-recording that. It's a big review. It's 2.5 hours. We thought it might be. It did turn out to be 2.5 hours. That's going to be going up tomorrow. That's going to be 8 p.m. Great end to sort of the Lord of the Rings discussion. And then continuing on from that, we're going to sort of get back on track, me and Tate again, with the Peter Jackson retrospective. We've got 2 more feature films to finish off his retrospective of films. And that's going to be the 6th of January, which is a Thursday. Regular scheduled programming. We've been talking about King Kong, Peter Jackson's 2005 remake of it. It's been a long time since I've watched that film, especially beginning to end. It's a very long film, and we're talking about the extended edition as well, like that film needed one. But yeah, it's going to be fun to go back to that one. So if you're a Peter Jackson fan, the content's still coming. We've still got a few more films to go.
Definitely. So everybody do check them out. Lots more stuff as we're heading into the new year. And there's a lot of Disney pushers happening, all this kind of stuff. There are maybe series planned that we don't know about as well on this channel. So it's going to be a hell of a year. And I guess, yeah, thank you to everyone that's been checking out all of our Disney Plus show discussions across the year as well. I think WandaVision was January now to make us feel old. Cobra Kai Season 3 was January, and here we are talking Season 4 this week. So a big thank you to everybody once again for sort of commenting throughout the year and all that kind of stuff. Last comment, Carl, the episode should have been called The Return of the King. Maybe if Django's head reattached, I'd be willing to jump on that bandwagon as well.
But, anything's possible in Star Wars after episode 9, my friend. Could happen.
Definitely. So again, thank you everyone, and be sure to join us next Wednesday.
See ya.